I didn't get at all big into music until I was actually in my late 30s, but I'm old enough that I go back to when families would get together and at home and sing. And particularly good singer was my Aunt Margaret. She had a really, really nice voice. My dad didn't. Dad never sang much at all that I recall. Interestingly enough, mother did, but I can't say for sure I've ever heard my father sing. But he enjoyed music as long as it wasn't too complicated. But anyway, so we did that. While I was at St. Bernard's School, I did do a little bit of singing, simple chant at high mass, but those days there wasn't a lot of singing being done in most Catholic churches. An exception was St. Joseph's, one of the French churches in Cohoes. They always had a good choir, but most places didn't. There was no glee club at LaSalle except for actually one semester. And it got started, and then Frère Thomas, the French teacher, became the assistant principal and said he didn't have time for it anymore. So we did some informal singing around a piano when I was at Manhattan sometimes. One of the people who was particularly interested in organizing that was Tom Whalen, who was subsequently became the mayor of Albany and who was actually a neighbor of ours. But Tom loved male chorus singing. He became a real staunch supporter of the Mendelssohn Club. He loved to sing and he couldn't. He did not have a good voice at all, but that's all right. I took piano lessons for a while when I was a youngster, and I didn't stick with it. I just, frankly, I've come to realize one of the reasons I didn't was I just never had the right finger dexterity to be much good at it. But I did learn to read music. In the 1960s, when the Catholic Church, after the Second Vatican Council, decided to have singing as part of a regular part of Mass, and there were hymnals in the church, I never realized it before, but I was able to sing. I read music to sing from. I had never done this before, and I did. By the way, hopping back, when I was in the public school system, they were still doing some things with music with everybody. They used the solfa system, which never made sense to me if you could read music, but and I was only there for, well, fourth grade. So anyway, I'm trying to recall exactly how this came about, and I don't, but somehow or other, I heard of the Festival of Praise Chorus, the 500-voice group that would sing one concert. Occasionally we did another one at SPAC every June. We generally managed to sing with at least 490-some people. One thing I remember particularly about one year, there was a woman who was at the Saturday dress rehearsal but didn't make the concert the next day because she gave birth, and she was full term, by the way. This was not an early birth. We were always warned that we should wear deodorant because a lot of us close together, and we should definitely wear insect repellent because at June in the Saratoga State Park there can be and frequently were a lot of mosquitoes. This was a very popular event. I believe one time the estimated attendance was over 17,000 people. There are recordings of this, and it lasted 12 years. And I was in it every year except the first and last. I've been in, I think, then 3 years when Helene saw an ad in the paper saying the Mendelssohn Club was looking for members. So I went and I auditioned. on a piece of music I'd never seen before. We don't do it that way now. And I passed the audition, and I've been in 46 years. I've had many roles in the Mendelssohn Club. I think it was in my third year that I was asked to help out with the library, which the librarian happened not to be there that week, but very shortly I got to be the assistant librarian, and I was that for well over 10 years. At the time, the music committee of the Mendelssohn Club consisted of just two people, conductor Larry Coulter, who started, by the way, at the same time I did, and Dr. Alan Robertson. As an assistant librarian who had no knowledge of the male chorus literature, really, I started looking through to see what was in the library. And there were some records of how often or when a piece had been performed, and I spotted some things I thought were pretty good that deserved to be performed. I mentioned this to Alan Robertson and Larry, and they suggested, why don't I be on the music committee? So I was on the music committee for, 17 years. And when Alan took a year off after his father's death, a year off from the club, he wasn't singing, I became head of the music committee, and I had that job for quite a few years. Subsequently, I guess nowadays Mike Wright, who is the head of the music committee, considers me a co-head. I'm still on the music committee. I've had 4 terms on the board. My most recent was a fill-in, and the normal board term is 3 years. You can't succeed yourself. My most recent one happened to be 2 because I was filling in for actually the rest of the term of the fellow who became elected president. I've produced a musical history of the Mendelssohn Club, and I guess the biggest job I ever did, and I don't know to this day how I found time to do it, was to consolidate the library. There were 3 different sets of files. Did a purge with help by several people of a lot of unused stuff, and produced the first ever consolidated catalog. Later on, I worked with Mike Wright on computerizing the catalog. Incidentally, the first consolidated catalog was typed by our neighbor Marilyn Franks. Some years ago, Richard Hartnett, who was then the historian for the club, said that we had, and this is probably going on 10 years ago, had determined that we had performed at 55 different locations in the city of Albany, interestingly enough. Most of my time in the club, our regular performance venue has been Chancellor's Hall in the Ed Building. There was a period of time when the place was too small for us because of some rebuilding that was being done, and we sang our 2 subscription concerts at the Egg and the Empire State Plaza, the larger Hart Theater. Now, in recent years, we've been performing the winter concert in the Egg because there's sheltered parking primarily, and we do the spring concert in Chancellor's Hall. I arranged to do actually a 3rd subscription concert, which we did before the second one, before the spring one, at Doane Stewart School in Rensselaer, and that was when we were hosting what turned out to be the last massed concert of the Mohawk Hudson Male Chorus Association. We have sung in some other places, quite a few actually. When I first joined the Mendelssohn Club, it still had the reputation of just not hardly traveling at all.